Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joshua Brown.
My name is Joseph Dwyer.
I'm Don Leon.
I'm Jared Parks.
We are Team 3-3, and today we're going to be presenting our platform project final review. Now, to go over some of the topics we're going to be talking about today, we're going to talk about how we are marketing this project to consumers, the methods we use to make this project successful, the overall process of our project from start to finish, as well as an analysis of how successful our project was. Now, by a show of hands, who here has been taught a lesson in class and then ultimately didn't understand it by the end of it? All right, so pretty much all of you. And that's exactly how we are marketing this project. This project is going to determine whether or not students have learned what they learned in class in a practical manner. Now, for higher grade levels, we're specifically aiming at math and science teachers, such as physics and geometry, as the concepts taught in those classes correspond directly with the concepts that our project implements. As well as the lower grade levels, we're pretty much targeting all teachers because it becomes so simplistic at that point that nearly all teachers can use it successfully. When it comes to adapting this project between lower grade levels and upper grade levels, it all comes down to scale. When it comes to the lower grade levels, we are giving them templates. We're giving a simple failure analysis, so that way their lack of knowledge of engineering design doesn't hinder them from doing this project successfully. While for the higher grade levels, we're going to let them have free reign over what they design, as well as a more in-depth failure analysis, because they know the math that goes behind the failure of the platform. When it comes to the strengths and opportunities of our project, one of the strengths is that it's very easily scalable, so the consumer can make it as large or as small as they want it, as well as the platform doesn't just have to hold weight. The consumer can add on to the platform's objectives. When it comes to weaknesses and threats, however, it's pretty much mandatory that it has to be a group project, so there's no guarantee that every single student has the same learning outcome. While it doesn't have the initial wow factor that a lot of other projects do, the wow factor comes at the very end. I will now be handing it off to Joseph Dwyer, and he'll be talking about the methods.
Thank you, Josh. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, my name is Joseph Dwyer, and I'm going to be talking about the methods today. So overall, we wanted to make a project that was designed for high school students that they would be able to understand and that would be beneficial for their knowledge. Just a quick show of hands, how many people in high school learned about engineering concepts? So about half of us. The other half is the group of people we want to target, the people that didn't quite learn engineering in high school. So we took next generation science and we went by their guidelines that says that each student should be able to apply science and engineering ideas to design, evaluate, and refine a device that minimizes a force on a macroscopic object during a collision. To do this, we have the newspaper platform project. So at the beginning of class, we gave the class a quick lesson, about 5 minutes with the team. We talked about simple geometry, physics, engineering design, and structural analysis to help give them an idea of where to start. We also brought in our own example that we had done before class so that they had an example to actually look at and touch to see how they wanted to do their project. So we gave the students about 30 minutes to complete their project. In that time, they had to build a platform that was 2 feet by 2 feet and made out of newspaper and duct tape. We split the teams in about 4 or 5 team members, and they had a large desk that they could all work on as a team, and they had plenty of room to do their project. We assessed on how well they learned their project at the end by putting weights on each platform, as you can see in the picture. And we talked to them about what they did wrong and what they did right and what they could have done to change their design to make it even better. And now I'm going to pass it on to Adon to talk about instruction.
Thank you, Joe. How's it going? My name is Don, and I'll be talking about the instruction manual. So to begin by show of hands, how many of you have ever read instruction manual and find it hard to follow or lacking information? So unfortunately, quite a bit of you. So the goal of our manual was to provide detailed and concise instructions so that any facilitator could coordinate the newspaper platform project. So going over the materials and costs, all these supplies can be found in your typical school or household, but assuming that you did purchase all of them, you would be looking at spending just under $100. The most important material on this list is the newspapers. We use recycled newspapers, as we don't recommend buying 225 newspapers for reduced cost. It was effective for us, and we recommend it for any team doing the same thing. Moving forward, we have the presentation setup schedule. So this is a schedule for any facilitator to complete these tasks prior to the day of the demonstration. For example, we recommend gathering facilitators 7 weeks prior to the demonstration, and we recommend gathering newspapers 3 weeks prior to the presentation as well. Also includes instructions on how to create a newspaper platform frame. As a facilitator, we'll have to create a frame for every single person on the team, one per team, as this will be the base for every platform. Continuing forward, we have the in-class demonstration timeline. With 51 minutes, which is quite short, time is restricted, and the most of the time is dedicated to the construction of the platforms and the platform testing. So lessons learned from our experiences. Time is a big challenge, so facilitators should follow our timelines as closely as possible. Plan to arrive to class to set the materials, because that's extremely important for the time constraint. And testing the platforms as fast but as safe as possible is extremely important for a successful road demonstration. So that concludes my portion, and I will now pass it over to Jared. You go over the analysis.
Thank you, Adon. Once again, my name is Jared, and I will be going over the analysis section of our project. So a survey was handed out to one person in each of the groups, which would tally the average opinion for each of these questions on the paper. The results are posted here, and students had said that they enjoyed the teamwork that was actually required by the project. However, they also noted that the time limits actually hindered them in some amount. On that note, how many groups in here actually had the same issues with their time management? Show of hands? So a few of you. So you know where I'm coming from. Please continue. So, but the averages all exceeded 3, which was the neutral score. The lowest being the 3.14, which was related to the time. However, the other two were 4 or above, which showed that they agreed that they enjoyed the lesson and felt that they had all learned something new, which is very important. The results also confirmed our observations that we made in the class, as when we were there, we noted that they seemed to be enjoying the teamwork and seemed like they actually were doing pretty well on making these very sturdy structures. However, errors that could come up from the method we collected these results are due to the time saving of having one student fill out each survey, is that averages the results from each group onto one paper. And of those 8 groups, only 7 actually responded to us. However, the positive reactions that we got on these are very promising. And on further trial runs, it's recommended that if we give them more time, the results may be even more positive. So in conclusion, we've gone over how and who this project is marketed towards, the methods that would be used to teach it, and the concepts that the class will be applying to actually perform the activity, the step-by-step guide of how to teach the lesson in class, and that for future trials, that the results are promising from this first trial. However, more tests should actually be run to actually confirm these results. So are there any questions? Yes.
This one's for Adon. If you could change the grade level for your project, what would it be?
Great question. So, the question is, would I change the grade level? And if I could, what would it be? The answer to that is I wouldn't. We had a mixture of different grades, and it seemed that every student was engaged, had fun, and were challenged. The only thing I would change would be to go to a different school, preferably on a block schedule that would provide more time. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
This one's for Jared. How big were the groups of the 8 groups?
Great question. The groups at a minimum were 4 students each. However, because it couldn't be evenly distributed, there were a few groups of 5. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Okay.
Yes.
This one's actually for Joey. Since you guys did mention the time constraint was a factor for the students, what is the minimum amount of time that you would recommend for this whole project to be done correctly?
Great question. The question was, what is the minimum amount of time do we need for the project? I would say around 40 minutes would be the absolute minimum. Having 30 minutes we felt wasn't enough, so giving an extra 10 minutes would have given the students plenty of time to be able to work on the project. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Joshua, in the marketing section, can you go into more detail about the scalability of the project?
That's a great question. So Felipe is asking about the scalability of the project. Pretty much what I mean by that is for the larger, like the higher grade levels, it becomes a much more in-depth project where you use a lot more math and science that you learn in these other classes and do actually do the math behind it and notice smaller failure points rather than a catastrophic disaster. When it comes to the lower grade levels, pretty much the only problem they're going to have is that catastrophic disaster, and you can easily have a second grader point out that's where the platform failed as opposed to a little nick in one of the corners. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Are there any other questions? All right, that concludes your presentation. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Okay.